Okay, this is Danny Alcars on Internet City Live. If you want to watch us live, you go to internetcityliveradio.com. We are here with the mayor, Carey Davis, re-elect, and Mr. Fred Shorett, Fourth Ward. And we have a vision. They have a vision for the city, and let's elaborate on that a little bit.
Well, thank you. Danny, once again, I'd like to thank you for giving us the opportunity to be on your show. And the city does have a vision. We put forward this vision at the last workshop that we held, and the vision that the city council has adopted is that we want to be a safe, world-class city, providing homes, equipment, employment, education, and a strong sense of community for our residents to live, work, and grow. We want to be a city that's thriving with an economy that's providing good jobs for its people. As the county's business and government center, we also want to be a city that's governed under our new charter in an open and ethical culture. These are the three prongs of our vision that we established. It was a collaborative effort that we put together with the mayor and the council and our city manager and other staff members.
Fred?
Well, I guess the mayor's pretty much said it all. I was part of the group, all of us together, worked together to put this vision together, and we're all working now. That's why I think this upcoming election is so important, that we kind of keep the continuity going, and that we're going to have two new council members no matter what happens in the election. And I think it's critical that we keep some continuity and keep some stability on the council. I happen to be the senior council member, and I've been there now for a little over 9 years. Have the experience and the knowledge, and have been a part of the decision making and the planning for this vision that the mayor just pointed out. And I think it's important that that we're reelected. Obviously, I'm here promoting the idea of my reelection in the Fourth Ward. I hope I can get people to follow up, and I'm also supporting Mayor Davis for his reelection as well. I think it's critical that we have this, as I've said 2 or 3 times now, continuity and this stability on the dais, so that we can continue to move forward. We've got a lot of good momentum started with the plan and with the vision, and I think it's important that we have a team that continues to work together as we implement the vision that we've planned.
Sounds like a good vision. Let's start with something light. How are we going to change the city from being so dark? I mean, there's a lot of dark places in the city. How are we going to do that?
Well, Danny, there's a number of things that we've already started to be able to improve that. I might, though, just reiterate briefly what Councilman Shorett has talked about as far as keeping the city on the course that we've started. Both of us are up for re-election. Both of us have been endorsed by the Sun. The Sun sees the progress that we have made. And I think that's important to recognize that the Sun, the local newspaper that has recognized the changes that have come about as a result of the leadership that's in place today. Councilman Shorett does bring that stability. He understands well the city's inner workings and has been very supportive of the changes that we've made. I, too, have been working very hard to make sure that the city stays on the course that it's on. We're still kind of at a fragile state where the city needs to make sure that it builds that fabric that can stay and withstand some of the vagaries that take place in politics and also in the economy. So it is important that myself and Councilman Shorett are reelected so that we can maintain and stay on that course so that it doesn't become derailed. As far as the darkness that you're talking about, the city of San Bernardino, as a result of the charter change, has been able to recruit some very good talent. Our city manager that we have been able to hire has put together some very good team members. One of those is our new public works director. She has put together a plan to be able to effectively improve the amount of execution of our CIP plan. That's our capital improvement plan. For the first time in many years, our capital improvement plan is $46 million for 2018-19. That $46 million is broken up into a number of different categories. One is streets, and our street lights are included in that. There's $18 million that's been dedicated for this year alone. What's really important to recognize is that in the past, we weren't able to execute at a very high rate. Now, with our new Public Works Director, she's able to put together that plan, and she's executing at a much higher rate than we have in the past. Plus, we have a more robust capital improvement plan for this year and going forward. And so some of that has already started. We're seeing a higher level of improvement in our potholes, in our street lights, getting more of the knockdown poles put back up. So it's already begun, but we believe that it needs to continue and it can accelerate if we're reelected.
I see. So when we went into the bankruptcy, was that a reconsolidation or was that a full-blown bankruptcy? I think because people don't understand that.
I'm going to let Councilman Shorett start with that one because he was there in August of 2012 when we filed for bankruptcy.
Okay.
Yeah, and what happened at the time was we had just overspent. We are now exiting bankruptcy. I'm going to go a little bit forward and then go back. But
Okay.
we've now got, when we went into bankruptcy in 2012, we were $45 million upside down. We had a $45 million deficit. We now have a $30 million reserve. A reserve is an interesting thing because people think, well, then once you turn on the lights, fill the potholes, build something, spend that $30 million, what are you doing with it? Well, the $30 million is exactly what it says. It's a reserve for difficult times.
Is that what they call the surplus?
That would be a surplus, right?
Okay.
A surplus. And we're still establishing what the exact amount we need in that reserve. But a reserve is a rainy day fund. It's for a downturn in the economy and what have you. But we were $45 million upside down. Andrea Miller, our then acting city manager and now current city manager, came to us and said, we're not going to make payroll on Friday. We've got to make an emergency bankruptcy, and we did. We filed that for protection. And so what we did was, to answer your question, we went into bankruptcy protection so that we could work things out and come up with a plan to offset the costs that we really were unable to pay. The state didn't want us to go bankrupt. The county didn't want us to go bankrupt. I mean, we were bankrupt, but they didn't want to. They would have had to take us over. So we had to work with all the bondholders and the people that, probably yourself included, had to work with people that we owed money and settle on an agreement so that we could get back out of bankruptcy. And now we're in the process of rebuilding that. We've got balanced budgets. We've got our all of our audits. I think we were 2 or 3 audits behind at the time. And now we've got all of our audits up and current. And we know where we are. And just to touch on Andrea Miller, our current city manager, she's an excellent city manager and is really putting things together. She's responsible for Trish Ray, our Public Works Director, and she's starting to build a good team so that we're balanced. But as the mayor said, we're fragile, so we've got to be careful, and we've got to be looking for revenue streams as well as where we can save money and where we can not spend or overspend. So, yeah, it was protection, and we did that. We went through that. We went through 5 years of negotiations with various creditors, and were able to come up with a plan that allowed us to exit bankruptcy. The courts blessed it, and we're now back on our own. But we are very fragile, and we need to continue working. That's why I said I'm going to go back to this idea of keeping the continuity and keeping the mayor and the council kind of where we are right now. As I said, the first and second wards, there are going to be 2 new council members there no matter what. They will be new, inexperienced. we need to keep that continuity in those other seats, and we just don't want to end up with a lot of new people right now. I'm glad to have people that are interested in the process and want to get involved, but we need to keep that continuity at least for the next 4 years as we get over these humps of exiting bankruptcy.
So let me see if I understand, so the people can understand. So if reconsolidation is basically what it is, am I right, so to speak?
Well, it's not, Chapter 9 bankruptcy is not like a typical bankruptcy for a business, because in Chapter 9 bankruptcy, the management stays in place. The management basically is the policy-making body of the mayor, the city council, and so that didn't change. But what changed is that now we had to put forward a plan that the bankruptcy court could approve. And so each step of the way, the bankruptcy court was providing us with those requirements that a city needs to fulfill in order to get a successful plan. So it's not really a reconsolidation. What it is it's a plan put forward that the bankruptcy courts feel comfortable that the city can be sustainable in the long term.
So is that like a proposal, so to speak?
It is like a proposal. That's exactly
Okay.
right. So we put together a plan. We proposed it to the bankruptcy court, and the bankruptcy court sanctioned it, and they essentially, in June of 2017, they confirmed our plan. Because our plan went through different iterations in making sure that it was a plan that was successful.
Right, and just to elaborate on that, we negotiated with people that we owed money, and unfortunately, some of those people didn't get, they weren't made whole. But we had no choice but to do that, and that's what it was all about. And the court was the referee that, as we negotiated with our bondholders and with other creditors, some we lost. I mean, some deals we'd make and the court would bless it. Some would say no, go back to the table and come up with a little better plan. So it took a long time. It was over 5 years that we were in protection.
Okay, so the surplus is 30 million. Is that right?
Roughly.
Roughly. Okay, so the city probably got a lot of bills just like regular businesses. Am I right?
Correct.
Every day.
Okay, so you got to kind of rob Peter to pay Paul, basically, to pay this and pay that to keep the city going. Am I right, so to speak?
Well, previously, yes. Under bankruptcy, we stopped making certain payments. And one reason we did that was exactly what you're describing, because we were very close to not being able to make payroll. And so under the direction of the city manager's plan, there were certain payments that were stopped. And that allowed the city to be able to make its payroll.
Wow. Okay, so we got to, well, the city's got to make some kind of plan to make everything work, basically.
Well, and Danny, an example, we balanced our budgets, and then we came to the council. City manager came to the council, and the council wanted, Mayor, maybe you can help me. I can't remember exactly what it was, but let's just say that we wanted something that was going to cost us $1 million. And we were balanced. We didn't have $1 million. So in order to do what we all agreed was necessary and needed to do, whatever I can't remember what the program was, but we all agreed that we needed that. We had to go back and cut somewhere else. That was part of the thing that made that possible, was contracting out our city attorney's office. We've saved almost $2 million in doing that. And so that $2 million savings was able to fund that other program that we didn't have at that moment. So you're not really robbing Peter to pay Paul. If you take it out over here to spend it, you got to get it from somewhere from over here. So it isn't, I guess, so to speak, is robbing Peter. Something's going to suffer because there's just so much money to go around. You know what it's like running a business.
Sure do. So if anybody would like to ask the mayor or Fourth Ward, Fred Shorett, any questions, it's 909-381-7540. 909-381-7540. So now I kind of understand, because it's kind of complicated to understand. So I guess when the people are listening right now, they can understand where this money's going.
It is, and I'll just say one more thing. There's only been about 4 municipal bankruptcies, I think, really recently in the country. There was, of course,
Belltown,
the big.
was it
That's right.
Belltown? Bell
The,
something?
no, it wasn't Bell, but it was Stockton, Mammoth Lakes, but that was for a different reason. That was because they over
And Vallejo was.
and Vallejo, and then the one back east. What was the real big
Detroit
one?
was-
Detroit. So and then San Bernardino. So it was uncharted territory and new territory, and we hired, of course, lawyers and people to come in to advise and got us through it. So it was a real learning experience for everybody involved.
Okay. Oh, just looking at our audience right now. So, okay. So outsourcing. So, are we going to do any more of that? Or we have any plans for that, or what are we going to do there?
So, all cities do some level of outsourcing. Some cities that are defined as contract cities, those cities outsource just about all of their services and have very few city government workers. The city of San Bernardino, in years past, would have been considered a full-service city. But we have, as a result of having to reduce our budget to meet our revenue, we have executed some outsourcing. One of those was to Burtec. We're now getting a higher level of service. Our streets are getting cleaned on a more regular basis. And as a result of that, we also now have an additional $5 million in our general fund by outsourcing to Burtec. That was the first major step that we took to outsource. And then subsequent to that, we annexed into the county fire district, FP5. That fire district annexation has helped to do a couple of things very positively. One of those is that the city is now getting a higher level of service by county fire, because county fire has the resources to be able to meet the needs of the city of San Bernardino. They have the technology, they have the hand crews, they have the bulldozers, they have all of that capacity that the city couldn't afford. And so by annexing into the fire district, the level of service almost immediately improved as a result of having the county come in and take over the city's fire department. Very tough decision. None of us wanted to make that decision, to give up an over 100-year fire department, but it was a tough decision. The council was able to make that decision, and it's effectively helped the city's budget by allowing us to have an additional $8 million in our budget, as well as increasing the delivery of service. Our 911 calls for the fire service, they were somewhere in the neighborhood pre-county of about 9 minutes, 50 seconds. Today, they are now under 6 minutes. And so there's been a huge increase in the level of service, plus an additional about $8 million in our general fund, which helps us to then hire additional police officers, because that's one of the major needs that we've identified, is that we need to make the city safer. But in order to be able to make sure that we could address that priority, we had to make sure that we had the funds. And those are a couple of those changes that we made to be able to fund additional police officers. Without making those changes, the city would not have been able to hire an additional about 35 police officers over the last few years. We lost 100 police officers, or over 100 police officers, when the city was going through its difficult times. And we're now in the recovery mode where we're starting to hire back police officers. And so those are a couple of the major changes that the city's made. And as Councilman Shorett alluded to earlier, we've also now brought in an outside city attorney's firm, and that's BB&K. BB&K is recognized as one of the leading municipal law firms in the state of California, and we now have brought them into the city of San Marino. We were very fortunate. We were able to get so many proposals of municipal law firms that wanted to come into the city, and as a result of that RFQ process, that request for qualifications, we were able to select what we believe is one of the best law firms in the state of California to aid the city as we go through an acceleration of growth where we need that capacity to be able to draw upon those municipal legal services and not have to pay as much for it. And as the councilman said, not only are we going to get a higher level of service, just like we are with Burtec and save money, and the fire department and save money, the same thing will happen with our legal services. We will save money as a result of making that change. And so are there other areas that we're going to contract out? Well, you saw the city in the past have to contract out some of its parks and some of its trees, and we use outside services for some of that lighting work. And it's an effective way of being able to get a higher level of service and also help to reduce our future pension costs, because our pension costs continue to rise. It's one of the legacy costs that the city of San Bernardino, like many cities, is struggling with. But because of the changes that we've made, we're going to see that over the long haul, we'll be able to sustain the financial ability of the city to make sure that we have the funding necessary to stay out of bankruptcy and to provide a higher level of service. So that's kind of a long answer to your question about contracting out, but are we going to be looking at other areas to contract out? I'm not quite sure if we have additional opportunities to do that, but the city will look at as many opportunities as possible for the city to be able to continue to make sure that the city is running as effectively and as efficiently as possible.
And that's what I said earlier, was that we're going to be looking for revenue streams as well as cost savings, and that'll be we probably don't have any departments that are going to be as significant to contract out as trash and fire was, as well as the city attorney, but there are things that we will be looking at. So, and the important thing I think for everyone, the listeners, to understand is that the decision to contract out fire was a very difficult one. Over 100-year-old fire department. One important thing is there was not one person in that department lost a job. They all went with the department, and not one lost a job. But the really important thing is, of course, the savings, $8 million in the general fund that we wouldn't have had. But still, the most important thing is going from that over 9 minutes to under 6 minutes. I don't know what that is percentage-wise. I think it's in the 30 to 40% range. And that saves lives and property. And they're doing it with fewer stations. We had 12 stations at the time. They're now doing it because of the county has a bigger service. They're a bigger service provider. We get help from Rialto, we get help from others, and we don't have to have as many stations. For example, if you've got a fire station in Rialto that's a county and one right in San Bernardino, right on the same border, we don't need both those fire stations. So I think we've gone from 12 to 9 now. And probably won't need to reopen them. We're providing better service with fewer stations, and that saves money. And of course, the important thing is it saves lives and property.
I have an idea, so I want to kind of talk out of the box, if it's okay. And if you guys want to hear my idea, maybe it could help the city somehow. Maybe
We'd be glad to.
I'm thinking. Well, years ago, I guess it was Governor Brown that stopped redevelopment, and SBAs, small business loans. If the city of San Bernardino were to bring that back, some kind of legal way, where we can help the businesses here, could that bring the city back up? Could we do something like that?
Well, RDAs were dissolved, and so
But could we do it our way?
We actually do have some funds that have been made available through the CDBG funds, the home funds, the ESG funds. Those funds are HUD funds that come to the city, and we can make some of, and have made some of those available for loans to rehab homes. Some of that money is also used to provide resources to services that provide homeless, serve the homeless population. But the RDA that was dissolved was a state mandated change, and so we don't have any ability to be able to fund it like it used to be funded. It used to be funded with tax increment, and the state has taken that option away. It's not something that's available to us. So we don't have it nearly at the size that we used to have it. We have a small aid that we can provide through some of those federal funds that are allowed to be used for some of those kinds of projects, but nowhere near. And so it's unfortunate that it was dissolved, because much of the growth and the ability for the city to improve redevelopment came from those funds. And I think it's unfortunate that they dissolved the entire process instead of trying to repair it, because it did provide cities, not just the city of San Bernardino, although we had a very robust redevelopment agency, it provided that ability for cities throughout the state to take on redevelopment programs, large programs, and the city also did some of that, but it's gone, and unless the state brings it back, then we don't have that ability to be able to exercise any real discretion over that.
And if I might add, and I'm no expert on this, so I'm not going to claim to be, but there are some tools that are starting to kind of surface that are kind of some replacement for redevelopment. It's not the same. And it was basically a money grab from the state. The state wanted their money. They took it away from us. And it was something that we really needed here. And San Bernardino was an ideal redevelopment city. I mean, it was for redevelopment of dilapidated, blighted areas, and it became abused by some other cities, and the state just stopped it. But there are going to be some other opportunities. But the big thing that we're going to do, and at least I'm supportive of, is, again, I'm going to go back to stability in the government, stability at the dais, stability in our leadership, and stability, safety and cleanliness. And it's known that development follows stability. And there are people out there, there's money that's out there that is private money that will come in and do development. That's what they're in the business of doing. But they're looking at us. And if we have a shakeup in November, and we're all, chaotic and not showing the stability that we are currently showing, people are looking at us, and they're going to turn and run. So it's really critical that we stay on this track that we're on after going through such a tumultuous time with the bankruptcy and the contracting out and all that. It's done now. As we've said before, it's fragile, but developers are coming to the community, and the redevelopment money that we were getting from the state and from tax increment is certainly a big loss, but it's not as necessary if we're doing our job, because development's going to come in here. We've got land, we've got water, albeit we're in a drought, but we generally have a pretty good supply of water here. We've got inexpensive land. We've got a lot of opportunity here. And if we can kind of keep our nose clean and keep moving in a positive direction as we are now, developers are going to come in here and they're going to spend their own private money to do what they do.
If I could maybe jump in.
Okay, go ahead.
Councilman Shorett talked about some of those additional monies that aren't necessarily directly related at some of the redevelopment projects like we had in the past. However, the state of California has an organization called the Strategic Growth Council, and the city of San Bernardino received a $20 million grant from the Strategic Growth Council to help us in the redevelopment of the Arrowhead Grove. The Arrowhead Grove is that project that was known as the Waterman Gardens, and today it's being completely revamped.
I saw that.
And so that's one of the developments in the city that will actually aid that surrounding area. You will see once it's completed, there'll be over 400 units. It was originally an old 1940s housing authority complex, and I think it was somewhere around 250 units. When it's completed, it will be over 400 units. It will have some commercial. It'll have some open space. It'll have a community space there also for that area. And it will start the regeneration of that area right along a very important corridor of Baseline and Waterman. And you'll see the spillover as a result of that being completed. And so it is one of those areas that we have been able to, fortunately, I think the city of San Bernardino with that $20 million received, I think, the largest Strategic Growth Council grant in the state of California.
I'm curious, since we're talking about that, the Carousel Mall, what are we really doing with that?
So both of us probably want to jump in on this, but I'll let Councilman Shorett take the lead on it. And so there's
like a big secret or something. I
it's-
don't
well,
know.
it is.
it's not a big secret, but
It's not a secret, but it's not all. That eventually is going to be completely leveled. There's two buildings probably that won't be. One is the old Harris Company building, and one is the Andreessen building, which was recently sold to an IT guy that is remodeling it, redecorating it, and he's starting to lease it out. One of the things that I'm proud that I was on the council at the time, and we kept the Regal Theater. Part of my colleagues back in those days wanted to sell that to somebody. We own that, and with the Regal Theater in there, they're one of the top. They're in the top 10%, I think. They've got 6,000 screens, and I think they're in the top 60 of use of that. The point is that that's valuable property that's going to be able to be sold at some point in time, and we will take that money. We haven't been updated on this lately. You might have a little more information on it than I do, but we're really waiting to hear kind of an update from our city manager on exactly where we stand with that. But the ultimate goal is it'll be really torn down to the ground, and it'll be all redeveloped. It'll be mixed use. It'll be housing. It'll be commercial. It'll be retail, and we don't even know for sure what it's going to be when it's finished. But we will do that in phases, little at a time, and there's a lot of interest in that, and we will see that redeveloped. It isn't going to happen overnight, but it's closed, as you know, and we now are just working towards. Do we have a master developer?
Not
I don't
yet,
think
no.
we do. No, we don't have a master developer yet, and I don't know that we will. We'll talk about it, and we'll decide what's best for getting that repurposed and reused. But it's going to be a real central city. It's going to be really central to the downtown. And, of course, we've got the Theater Square area. One of my things that I haven't talked a lot about this with the mayor or with anybody, but we've got that hotel down there that's sitting empty. And it's interesting that it kind of sits halfway between Loma Linda and Cal State San Bernardino, and if I think we can get that downtown with the SBX line that's little by little starting to show more and more use of that, but we can get some of the college and some of the younger people into that entertainment area with the California Theater, some restaurants. Hopefully, it'll be developed. Some housing, some senior as well as student housing, and we'll get that revived, and it'll be a bustling downtown.
Okay.
Danny, just to kind of add to that, the infrastructure that's been put in place to help with the development of the downtown area will be instrumental in helping to attract some of those developers. With the transit hub that was put in place right there, just one block south of the Carousel Mall, and now with the Metrolink coming into the downtown, that really helps to set the stage for a lot of the development that will provide the value that developers are looking for in downtown. Because of our situation and our location of the downtown with that transit hub, with the Metrolink, which eventually will be making a connection to Redlands, it'll allow anybody that wants to live in the downtown the ability to use transportation just about throughout Southern California without having a car. And so we really will be, it's a very exciting time for San Bernardino to see how that will develop into a transit-oriented district that will attract those millennials that want that kind of amenity. And so we're very well positioned to develop that because of that transit hub that we have there. And so developers are keeping that in mind as they look to the city of San Bernardino. How could this best be capitalized on with that transit ability to serve a community that will develop right there in the downtown? As Councilman Shorett pointed out, it will have residential, it will have retail, it'll have commercial, and it will expand from the downtown. It won't just be the downtown. We have that convention center, we have City Hall, we have Court Street, we have that whole corridor there with Fifth Street. We've just given the city manager direction to enter into an agreement with the developer to develop the Fifth Street corridor, which is a prime piece of property right across the street from In-N-Out. And you've seen how successful In-N-Out has been. That's why that developer wanted to have that as an opportunity to develop. And so you're going to see that downtown, together with some of those other adjacent properties, you're going to see that over the, not necessarily in the long term, I think in the fairly short term, in the next 2 to 5 years, you're going to see that entire area be transformed because developers are looking for a good place to park their money, and they see San Bernardino as a place to do that. As Councilman Shorett talked about, the Andresian building, that Andresian building was purchased for the specific purpose for that owner to be able to expand his business into the downtown. That owner has a business in San Marcos, and when he expands his business, his plan is to expand it into the Andresian building. But he's already taken that building and he's rehabbing it, he's leasing it out. He saw the ability that the city of San Bernardino has to attract transportation logistics companies into our area, and we're seeing that. At the airport, that airport has continued to expand. It's been a gem of an economic engine for the city of San Bernardino. Today, we now have UPS that's flying out of there. We have Federal Express that's flying out of there. There's a lot of activity going on at that airport. The activity has just about doubled over the last several years as a result of the good management that is in place there. Councilman Shorett and I both sit on that JPA, that Joint Powers Authority. I serve as the president, and Councilman Shorett serves as one of the board members. And it continues to see a significant amount of demand for that airport. Part of that is a result of the congestion in Los Angeles. The transportation arena for cargo is going to come our way and already has been coming our way.
So that, what's that, Bus X, is that what that's called?
Yes, SBX.
XPX. So those poles that we put up, and you can't even get to La Villas or you got to go all the way around. What are we going to do about that?
So we've actually made a correction there. I worked with Omnitrans a couple of years ago, and it used to be at Waterman Gardens you couldn't make a U-turn. Today you can make a U-turn, so it allows for easier access both north and south. And then also at Commerce Center East, that used to not allow for a U-turn. And so we have made that change so that you can now make a U-turn. And so access is much easier. Now those delineators that you made reference to, in our CIP, we have dedicated funds to be able to replace those from Waterman to E Street with a much more attractive delineator. We have to keep that traffic separate from the SBX. That SBX is a very heavy bus.
So what you're saying is just temporary right now?
So those delineators are going to be changed out, yes.
Okay.
And it's actually, I believe, in the current year's capital improvement plan to do that.
I see. Okay, so business friendly, the city of San Bernardino, going into the planning department to get a new business open up here. It's kind of hard to do that. So how are we going to change that to be business friendly?
Well, actually, I probably would take exception to that because over the course of the last several years, we've had a number of businesses come into the city of San Bernardino. And if I could just read a few of them to you. Tree
Sure.
Island Steel is a manufacturing company, Trader Joe's Distribution. We have the J.C. Penney's Distribution Center, Aldi's, Cardenas, Golden Corral, Anita's Mexican Food Corporation, Regis, Molina Healthcare, Planet Fitness, LA Fitness, Raising Cane's, Wayburger, Dickies, Rogers Burgers, New Starbucks, Old Town Baking Company. We've had a number of companies come to our city, and those have moved from other cities. And so the city manager, I believe, is doing a good job at trying to be able to recruit good talent. And by recruiting that good talent, we're going to see some streamlining of those processes because you're right, we need to be business friendly. But Councilman Shorett, I think, touched upon a very important point. In addition to being business friendly, whereby we set up systems and processes so that we could move new businesses and existing businesses that want to do some building or some renovation or make some additions to their properties. One of the more significant problems that we've had in the past is not having political stability or financial stability. And so that's kind of put the brakes on those developers that want to come into a city. They see the potential for the city. 43 acres in the downtown, in a downtown area like that, it's a prime location for developers to come and want to put their footprint. But we've started to establish that political stability, and we've done it with the new charter. That new charter has helped to eliminate the old dysfunctional organization that existed in the city. And by doing that, that is helping the people that are looking to make investments, not only investors and business people, but homeowners that want to buy in the city of San Bernardino. They are able to see that the city made one of the most crucial changes that it needed to, and that was to repeal the old charter and put in a new charter that looks like modern cities today. And that gave us the ability to become much more competitive with other cities. We had to do that in order to make sure that the city would be looked at as a favorable city to come to. And the other thing that we've done is we've made some major strides in financial stability. Those two things are not only helping us to be more attractive to outside investment, it is also making us more attractive to people that want to come to work for the city of San Bernardino. That charter was a direct benefit of that charter was our new city manager. She knew that if the city was going to progress, it needed to change that. And when we put forward our plan of adjustment to the bankruptcy court, Judge Jury realized that it was important that included in that was a charter, a new charter. And so the charter is probably one of those things that people don't recognize the importance that it plays in the future of the city of San Bernardino. Without that change, the old dysfunctional organization could have continued to exist. And that's what kept the city from making a lot of progress. It was an impediment. It was a foundational flaw of the city of San Bernardino, and we've made that change. The council put it forward to the voters, and the voters approved it 60% to 40%. The city has also recognized, as the community recognized, we had to do something different, and we've done that. And so now we're setting the stage for the future development of the city of San Bernardino on a more level playing field like other cities today.
What about the mom and pop businesses?
Mom and pops are not left out of this equation at all. In fact, they're as a result of some of the growth that's taking place at the airport, you're seeing businesses being able to come in and provide those kinds of services. So that development of the airport, the development of the downtown, that will just continue to help small businesses. One of the things that the city of San Bernardino has collaborated with is the Mexican consulate. And there are classes that are held for small business, people that want to start small businesses, and those classes are held in collaboration with the Mexican consulate and San Bernardino in helping them to have the tools to be able to start businesses. They provide them instructions on regulations, on the IRS and sales tax. And so we're doing a very good job at helping to provide a vehicle for small businesses to grow and thrive.
I see. So I drive around the city every day. I see one business open, 3 businesses closed. So how are we going to fix that?
Well, you'd have to tell me which three businesses because we're not seeing that. If you take a look at the number of new businesses that have come into the city of San Bernardino, it far outweighs the number of businesses that have closed or left the city. Yes, there have been some of those. Some of those have left because they've also maybe not been able to operate a business successfully in the city of San Bernardino for a number of potential reasons. However, unemployment in the city of San Bernardino has decreased dramatically. In 2013, and this is why I take exception to one coming and three leaving, the city of San Bernardino in 2013 was looking at 12.3% unemployment. As of May of 2018, we were down below 5%. So how did we improve the employment base if all of those jobs were leaving? It wouldn't make any sense. We've had many more businesses come into the city of San Bernardino than have left. We've added approximately 8,000 jobs over the past 4 years in the city of San Bernardino. The city of San Bernardino, per the last EDD report, the Employment Development Department report, it shows that we're the fourth largest employer in the entire county of cities. So the city of San Bernardino is a good job generator, and it's a generator of good paying jobs in the city also.
Okay. So what about the crime in the city? So do you think it's uprise? Do you think it's slowed down or?
So I do monitor that. As I pointed out earlier, the city of San Bernardino has hired approximately 30 to 35 new hires, new sworn officers over the last 2 or 3 years. And from 2015 to 2016, the total overall crime in the city of San Bernardino actually went down by about 7%. That's based on the UCR report, the Universal Crime Report that's put out on an annual basis. And so for that year, from 15 to 16, it dropped. From 16 to 17, it also dropped by about 7%. And so we are seeing a reduction in crime in the city of San Bernardino. They're small increments, and we'd like to see it improve, but we need to continue to beef up our police department. Our police department needs more police officers, and they need equipment in order to be able to operate. A lot of those vehicles are old, but we've replaced about 60 to 70 of those vehicles. That's a big chunk of money. Included in our CIP this year, I believe, is about $5 million for our police department to buy new technology and to be able to, they need a new roof. So we need to make sure that those resources are available, and the city council is making those decisions to make sure that the police department have the resources they need to be able to be more effective.
So what you're saying that we got more officers now, is that what you're saying?
Yes, we have.
But we still don't have what we want and need, but we've got more, and we'll continue to build that. We will continue to build that.
Councilman Shorett is right. We need more. In our plan of adjustment that we put forward to the bankruptcy court, we put forward a 5-year resource plan for rebuilding the police department, building it back up.
I talked to a lot of people, and they're scared to go outside. So how do we make them feel safe?
Well, I'll some of what we're talking about here, and it's not going to happen overnight. We fell into a huge disrepair, and some of the businesses that you're talking about did leave, and we're going to be attracting them back. But where there's activity, you've got less crime.
You got a caller, Fred.
You're on the line.
I have a caller, or the mayor has a caller?
Both of you.
All right. What's the question?
What's the question? Who's the caller?
Can you hear me?
Hi, good evening. Am I on?
Yes.
Yes, you are.
Hi, my name is Iris Aguilar. Good evening, everybody. I am a resident of San Bernardino as of 3 years ago. I am a small business owner, and I do run in out of the city of San Bernardino. And I have a story I'd like to share with you.
Sure.
About a month ago in September, I was out of town and came home after being away for the weekend to find that my house had been broken into, and things were stolen. It was a really scary ordeal. It's never happened to me before. A policeman did show after probably 30 minutes after I called 911, and I was left feeling more insecure and unsafe after dealing with the police officer than even after finding that the house had been broken into. So, as both a resident and a business owner, I have the same question from two different points of views. I understand that you mentioned you are having more funds to, hire more policemen, but when are we going to start seeing that on the streets? Because as of now, it almost seems like after dark, it really is the Wild West out here, and the city is taken over by crime.
Could you elaborate on you indicated that you felt less safe after you had encountered, obviously you had been violated by being broken into, and you called and we showed up, the police showed up, but you said you felt less. Did you? I didn't understand that exactly.
I did, absolutely.
I'm trying to get, I guess, did the officers say or do something that made you feel less secure?
It was a little bit of what he said and did, and then also what he didn't do or say. It was from the very beginning, calling 911, the dispatcher was not nice at all, and then when the police officer came to the house, it was only one police officer after about 30 minutes after making the phone call. And there was lack of interest from him. Also, he made it pretty clear that the city was lacking the resources to provide any type of help. He basically, because I didn't have an alarm or a videotape of the crime happening, then he basically said that there wasn't anything that the city could do to help, or the police department could do to help.
So I'm very sorry to hear of your misfortune. None of us like to have to deal with those kinds of events, and I am sorry to hear that your experience left you feeling less safe. I would like to suggest that you contact the city manager's office, because the city manager wants to know that. The city manager wants to be able to help our customer relations efforts rise to a higher standard, and so I would encourage you to contact Andrea Miller's office. She's our new city manager, because she is very proactive at trying to help our police department, all of the departments, to improve. The city, when it went through bankruptcy, all of the departments were under stress and needing to be able to provide a higher level. And she's working department by department to improve that. As I mentioned earlier, we have now a new public works director. We're working on developing a recruitment for a new community development director. But in order for us to fix those things, we need to hear those complaints. And I'm glad that you called in to express that concern to us, so that we can recognize it, and Councilman Shorett and I can reinforce the concern that you have, and make sure that the city manager is also apprised of this need that we have. Our police officers are tasked very heavily on a daily basis with having to identify priorities and establish what calls they're going to be able to respond to. We really have an excellent police department that is doing its best with the resources that they have, but they need more resources. And once we are able to provide them more resources, I believe and I'm confident that our service delivery will improve. It actually, I'm sorry once again to have heard of the experience that you've had, but it actually has improved over the last several years. We do hear some of the calls that are indicating some of the positive responses that residents are having with the police. Unfortunately, yours wasn't a positive result, and both council member Shorett and I are saddened to hear that, and we want to make it those changes as rapidly as possible. And so,
it would be very nice to see some change, and definitely more police on the street, aside from some of the other bigger concerns. Obviously, potholes, street lights, the prostitution problem, the transient problem. It's just so many. I'm not a native of the city, but I actually come from a city that's very much the opposite of San Bernardino. So I feel that natives of San Bernardino almost feel like this is normal, and it really would be nice to see so many changes in the city. My question is, both as a resident and a small business owner, what type of incentive do I have to look forward to keep me here? What would you say to somebody like me who's very much on the fence, both to stay in the city to live and to remain here as a business owner?
Well, I think you're looking at two members of the leadership of the city of San Bernardino that are very positive and hopeful. We can turn back the time to not too many years ago, when conditions were much worse than they are today. We were looking at conditions where we were not able to pay creditors. We were not able to attract good talent into the city. We've reversed that course. The city of San Bernardino's financial stability has improved dramatically. Our political stability has improved. In days past, you saw the city council that clearly was very divisive. It was a council that was had factions in it. There were blocks. There was this block and that block. That's changed, and I think I'm very, very encouraged by the changes that have taken place. And that's why I'm running for re-election, to continue that course. I think that the city of San Bernardino is on the edge of being able to make those improvements where more and more people are going to see that the city of San Bernardino is a place to relocate, a place where families can raise their children, and they'll be able to get a good education, and there are job opportunities that will allow them to have growth. So I can't speak for Councilman Shorett, but I know that I'm very much encouraged and hopeful about the progress that the city has made, and how that has laid a foundation for us to really launch into the future with a more thriving economy, a community that is going to be safer. We've implemented, and we're right at the beginning stages of implementing what we call our Violence Intervention Plan. The Violence Intervention Plan is a plan that we've adopted. It's very similar to one that was put forward in the city of Oakland. We're kind of at just about the last stages of being able to implement that. Once that's implemented, we're going to see a reduction in violence crime. I can say that with confidence because the evidence that was put forward to us as we explored the Violence Intervention Plan in the city of Oakland indicated that the steps that we're taking will reduce violent crime in the city of San Bernardino. And I'm very much looking forward to the full implementation of that. And once it's fully implemented, we'll see the benefits of it. We embarked in this plan about a year ago. There's an organization called California Partnerships for Safe Communities. We've entered into an agreement with them, and they're helping to lead us down that path. And so we've worked through a couple of the initial stages of that, and once that's fully employed, I'm confident that crime will, and specifically violent crime and crimes related to murders, will be reduced in the city of San Bernardino, and will be seen as a city that is doing something very proactive about making those changes. We're not just sitting back and waiting for that to happen without taking some very positive, proactive steps.
And I would just add that we are taking those steps. I know that as the public doesn't always see exactly what we're doing, but the financial stability and the political stability and the staff stability that we currently have, we are moving in the right direction. I would ask somebody in your position, number one, I'll give you that phone number for the city manager's office. It's 384-5122. And we do encourage people we've got to know what's going on. And if there was an incident that occurred and you were not treated properly, we've got the ability to go back and look and see exactly who was involved and how that happened. And if they're acting inappropriately or not responding appropriately, we can deal with that, but we can't if we don't know about it. It's kind of difficult to deal with something after the fact. And as the mayor said, the night of a break-in, if there was if your life was in danger, it would have been a 911 call, and it would have been a code red, and they would have been there in minutes. After the fact, if there's not a lot we can do other than go back and try to but we should be making you feel safe. There's not a lot we can do after it's already been done. But I would ask that as we've talked about the opportunity, we've come a long way. Both the mayor and I were born and raised in this town. My family's been here since the 20s, and I've seen this city go from a wonderful middle-class community really hit bottom. And a friend of mine always said, you got to hit bottom before you can push off and head back toward the top. Well, I think we've hit bottom, and we're pushing off towards the top. And some of it's going to take just some patience and some trust in your leadership that we are doing that. But we've got to be engaged. You're calling in and you're sharing this with us. And I'm going to encourage you, as the mayor did, to call the city manager and follow up and make sure that we treated you properly. And little by little, we're going to be showing the businesses are coming in. We are turning the corner on this community, but we went so far down that it's not going to be easy to just come right back up and turn this city into what it was back in the 50s and 60s. But I do believe that we're going there. But again, I hate to make this all about politics, but it really is. The political climate here needs to remain stable. That's one reason the mayor and I are here supporting one another for re-election, to keep the stability and keep the staff that's going. If we turn into chaos after November 6th and there's a major shakeup on the dais, I fear that we may lose some talented people. And we just don't want that to happen. I think we're moving in the right direction, albeit slow, and albeit not good enough or fast enough for somebody that's had a situation like yours. And again, I'm sorry that you had to deal with that, but I would encourage you to follow up, and we can look into it for you.
I absolutely will. Now, if I could ask just one more thing, on a regular shift, how many officers do you have?
I can't specifically answer that.
I can't.
That really
either.
is an administrative. There's a need in part to understand that the mayor, the city council, our role is to help to set the policy, and to then allow the administration through the city manager to administer that. And so it's a very good question, and I believe that it has improved over the course of the last several years, that we do have more out on patrol. But I also know that the city manager is looking at ways to improve that. And she's looking at the police department to find ways where patrols can get back out on patrol after they've been involved in an incident more quickly. And so those actual numbers I can't speak to directly.
It varies. It does vary depending upon the time, and you can get that information. It's available. That would be a question that you could pose to the city manager, and I'm sure that her office could give you an answer to that, so that you could know who's on the street all day long into the. I think there are 3 shifts, or there are 2 overlapping shifts. I'm not even certain of that. But those are answers that can come out of the PD, and they can be gotten for you.
Okay, yeah, I think I certainly will follow up, because down here in Ward 3, we don't see police officers very often.
Well, follow up on that, and we do appreciate your call, and we're once again sorry for the unfortunate event that took place, and I do get calls from residents that have had other experiences that show that there's been a change in how our police department is responding. And so it's unfortunate that yours didn't occur that way, but I am assured that our police department's making inroads at being able to make sure that the citizens are responded to and that they are made to feel more secure.
Would you like to plug your business and
Absolutely.
tell us what
fact,
your business is?
In fact, I think I could be maybe of some help for the city. My business name is Presto Dustless Blast. We are mobile media blasters, so we can we can restore any hard surface, and one of the main things we do is remove graffiti. So it's almost like an eraser. So instead of painting over it, we are literally removing it from the walls or even mesh fences, any hard surface with graffiti on it. I would love to help clean up the city.
Well, that would sound like something that you certainly should make yourself available and known to our city management team. And I've given you that number, 384-5122, and they will be able to direct you if you're able to participate in any way through your business.
Excellent. I'll call them and tell them you said to call them.
Well, I can't sign a contract for you, but I can certainly refer you.
I can report that the customer relation management system that is put in place, it's called the CRM system, that our city manager is very proactive about trying to improve its effectiveness. As of the report that was put forward in August, she's found that 100% of the open cases on graffiti removal as of August had been completed. And so she's taken that very seriously to reduce the time to respond. Where it used to take us upwards of 30 days to do it, I think we're doing it now within about 72 hours. And so graffiti removal is one of the areas that helps a city to be able to put forward that appearance that the city takes pride in how it looks.
Absolutely. Cleaner city, safer city will equal more residents, bigger businesses, more money, right?
Absolutely.
So thank you for your call.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, that was interesting.
In what way?
Would you like to comment on that, Danny?
Yeah.
Your audience here wants to know.
I think we need more officers.
We're working on that, Danny. We really are, and the city manager is working on it. It's resources, and it's utilizing your resources. And I keep harping on this idea of development, and development follows certainty, and certainty is going to bring development, and with development we bring jobs, we bring people, we bring rooftops. We've got rooftops, but we need to. We're all in this together, and with more people in here, we'll have more income for our community, and therefore we can provide those services. And again, I'm a staunch believer that if you have a lot of people in the park playing and having fun and enjoying themselves, you are not going to have homelessness in that park. Just like if you've got a business area and it's clean and bright and people are working and there's activity going on, there's not going to be the same kind of crime and same kind of activities that go on in a place that's not as well kept. And we're working on that. It is a problem. It's a challenge. There's no doubt. I'm not going to try to sugarcoat it. We've got a long way to go, but again, I'm going to go back to that stability and staying on the right course and not changing in the middle of the stream.
One of the things also that we, like other communities and agencies, are struggling with are the pool of available people that qualify to become sworn officers. It's a shrinking pool, and out of a pool of maybe 500 applicants, you might get 2 or 3 that qualify to be able to enter into the police department and go through that training. And so that pool, many of the agencies we're all vying for, but we've been fortunate over the last several years as a result of the city's stability to be able to attract people that want to work in the police department of San Bernardino.
I know how it works. My son's an officer.
Well, and too, along those lines, there was a time when we were telling the public that we just don't have the money. We're in bankruptcy. We just don't have the money to hire people, and it was a dollar issue. It was having the resources to hire people, to pay them. I don't want to sound like we've got boatloads of money, but it really is, as the mayor says, it's a pool. It's the availability of people and getting them to come here, and it really isn't so much a dollar issue anymore. We've given the PD the resources that, as many as we possibly can to hire people. And if you ask the chief, he'll tell you that it's, as the mayor just said, it's really finding the right people that qualify. It's not so much that we don't have the money to pay them or hire them.
Additionally, one of the things that we put in place in the past, as we talked earlier, was in order to be able to address that need, which is the number one priority for the city of San Bernardino, to make it safer, not only for our community and our residents and for our businesses, but for all those who are looking to locate here. One of the things that we had to do is to make sure that we did have and make the available funds. We've increased our police department budget over the last 4 years by about $24 million. And that's with some very rigorous budgeting that the city manager has been very effective at being able to bring forward, so that not only are those resources available for police department and for other departments, but also to make sure that the budget is balanced and we have it with the reserve. And so we've done multiple things over the course of the past 4 years that have strengthened our ability to be able to hire more police officers. And we'll continue to make sure that we work on that effort so that the city can continue to become a safer city.
Well, I think criminals are more educated now. I don't know if that's good or, I don't know, or smarter. So I think they have to travel. So to travel, they need to do whatever, go burglarize, break into people's houses, whatever they're going to do, what crime they're going to do. So we need those officers to patrol the streets.
You're right.
If we did that, if the city did that, then there would be less crime, I think.
And we are working on that.
You agree with that?
Yes, and it'll have an impact as we continue to increase the number of PD that can be on patrol.
There's a point, though. There's a point. I mean, we're not going to have 1,000 police officers in a city our size.
Right.
I don't know what the exact number is. I know it with Measure Z back when we tried to get up, and I think we reached it back in 08 and 09. About 340 officers, sworn officers, if I'm not mistaken, and that was just before we got to that. We advertised. We passed Measure Z on the ability to get up to 340, I believe. Maybe it was 360.
I think it was 350.
340 or 350, and we got really close, and then the bottom fell out. Everything fell out. The economy, everything went south. So there's been people complaining that we didn't ever get there. Well, we did get there, but then people started leaving. We were having problems. We were having financial problems, and people started exiting, and we're rebuilding that. So we're coming back, and I don't know. I'd have to ask the chief or the city manager what would be the optimum number of police officers sworn on the streets in the city of San Bernardino like ours. But I don't know how many we have sworn at the present time.
Budgeted, I think we're at 260, 261.
261.
Yeah.
So we're short. We need more. And I think back then we thought 350, 340, 360 was about the right number. So we've got a ways to go, but we're pecking away at it, and we're getting there. And as I said, it's not really, as the mayor indicated, it's the pool. It's the availability of good people that can pass the test and that can be an officer, and it's not so much a financial issue anymore.
But we do have an excellent police department.
We do.
They are working very hard to make sure that they do the best job that they can. And our police department is looked at. Our police department has a good reputation. That's why we are able to recruit police officers back to the city of San Bernardino. And we're very fortunate that we have the caliber of police officers that serve the city of San Bernardino. And they want to do a good job, and they do a good job. And it's unfortunate that there are those occasions when they are under such a time pressure to be out there and deal with the calls that they have to deal with. They know that the city's safer as they're out there on patrol. And so they have to prioritize. And I think they do a good job of prioritizing in the condition that they're working on to make sure that they are getting out there and they're doing the best that they can.
Basically, what you're saying is they're doing 3 jobs at a time, basically.
In some cases, sure, yeah. They're stressed and stretched.
Mm-hmm. So don't they have the Explorer program anymore?
Yes, they do. And some of those move into the ranks of police officers. We have the Public Safety Academy that is in the city of San Bernardino, and it helps to raise those who want to get involved in public safety.
Okay, let's go to another topic. Let's go to registered voters. So my last estimate was 77% out of 216,000 people here in San Bernardino, or 220 now. I don't know what it is, somewhere around there. We got the last 2 years, it's been 14% on down, and this last 2 years, it's been 10%.
You're talking about turnout?
Yeah, registered voters. So that's a big problem.
Yeah, no. You're talking about turnout at elections, or you're talking about
registered voters?
We've gone from 77. We've gone down 14% in registered voters.
Yes. There's only actually 14%
that vote.
That vote. That's
right.
Turnout, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
All right, I understand.
The last 2 years it went 10%.
Right.
So basically, every ward is about 1,200, 1,500, 1,700, somewhere around there.
Well, that's not exactly true. Up in my ward, over 4,000 people vote.
Okay.
So it does.
So
it depends.
It depends
on the
upon
ward.
the ward. I mean,
Yeah,
in the
right.
first ward, I think there's really only about 700 that vote. In the fourth ward, there was over 4,000. In the fifth ward, there's upwards of 3,500 to 4,000. So it kind of has to do with the area.
Roughly 10%.
But the overall is what
Yeah.
you're talking about. Overall
Right.
turnout on a race would be 10 to 14%.
Right. So when I talk to people,
Okay.
they say, why should we vote? It doesn't matter.
Well, it does.
Well, that's what I tell them.
That's right.
I tell them that it does matter.
It does matter. That's
so
one of the.
They want to hear it from you guys.
Well, can I talk to that real quick?
Yes.
I can tell you why it matters so much. It really mattered to me in the primary, because in June, when I ran against 2 other candidates, in a primary, if one of the candidates gets 50% plus 1 vote, they win it in the primary, and they don't have to go through the general. In the case of mine, I came up to right at 50%, and 27 votes would have put me over, and I wouldn't have been running today through November. So that's how important 27 votes are to me personally in that particular scenario. So every vote counts, and we've had races where a race is actually, we've had a couple of ties over the years where we flip a coin for someone to win. So every vote matters and every vote counts, and we do need to get people engaged, just like this lady that called in.
Mm-hmm.
We need them engaged, and one of the ways to get engaged is to go to the polls and to vote, or to go down and get your absentee ballot and mail it in.
I was watching this video with Michelle Obama, and she says that 5, 10, 20, 50 votes wins the election. And
27 would have won it for me.
so it's very important. So how do we get that morale back up where people are believing again? How do we do that?
Well,
your guys' opinion.
one of the things that we did when we changed the charter was to change the election cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And in the past, the election cycle was on odd years. And so we think that contributed to the low voter turnout in the past by having our elections for local elected leaders on an odd year. And so when we changed the charter in November of 2016, we adopted a new election cycle, and we are now on that election cycle. And so this year is the first year that that new cycle will be in play. Now, in presidential election years, we typically see a much higher level of turnout. This is a midterm, and so we don't really probably expect to see as high of a turnout at the midterm.
Mhm.
However, we should see an increase in the voter turnout, and we actually did see that in the mayoral race for the primary. We saw a higher percentage of voter turnout than took place in the prior election in 2013, and the election for November, we anticipate that it'll also increase over what it was before. I think there were only about 12,000 that voted
Mhm.
for mayor in 2013, and I think that we were at about 18,000 at the primary. And so it's actually already increased, if my numbers are correct, and we
Okay.
expect that it should increase. So that was one of the significant changes that the charter brought about. It's why the election for mayor and the council members that are up for re-election is being held this year versus last year. It
I
would have
see.
been held last year, and you could probably well anticipate that there would have been a lower turnout. So I think we're already going to see the benefit of that. And as Councilman Shorett was a great live example of the importance of voting, this is no different in this election. This election is very important for people to get out and
Very,
vote.
very important this year.
That's right.
Very, very important.
We think it's important every year.
Yeah, right, exactly.
So what do you guys think about I say you guys, I should, mayor, and
That's all right.
it's okay.
We're friendly around here.
Okay. The millennials. How do we get them to vote?
Well,
I'm probably the wrong guy to ask. I'm not plugged into that group like I should be. But
Well, have you-
that's a good question.
I'm sure you guys watch elections where the new millennials are going into the Senate and Congress and stuff like that. And I know there's one girl, she won, I forgot her name, but she's 28 years old. She won Congress, I
In
think.
New York, right?
Yeah. So how do we get the millennials involved?
well, I think that the millennials are an important contingent of voters, not just in the city of San Bernardino, but nationwide.
Okay.
Because I think that we do need to hear what their hopes and desires, what their fears are, and we need to be listening to them. And so I think part of the way to address them is to be engaged with them. I have taken efforts to engage with the youth. I established what's called the Mayor's Academy about two and a half years ago. And that was to reach out to our youth, to give them a vision and an opportunity to see what goes on in City Hall. And so I work with the principals in our high schools and ask them to select students that would like to shadow the mayor for 4 hours.
Mhm.
We take them to the airport. We give them a tour of the sheriff's rescue facility, and then we ask them to attend the airport meeting. And then after that, we ask them to write an essay. And then from those, we select 2 of those students to serve in a paid internship in the mayor's office. And we've done that very successfully over the course of the past 2 years. And so I think engaging them in the process is one of the ways that we help to encourage millennials, because those 2 interns from those schools, and I think we've had 4 now, they will then, I think, be able to report back what their city is doing and some of the opportunities and the bright horizon that really can be there for them as they get engaged. And so we've taken that. We're also, I think, through the county workforce development, they're encouraging some internships at the city level, at the county level. That will get them involved. And I think that will also then encourage them to become more involved in voting, because then they can see that they do have an impact. And at 18, we have a number of high school students that they can vote this year and they can make a difference. I also was engaged in helping to encourage them to get involved. One of the teachers in our high schools put together a forum for mayors to come, or mayor candidates to come to his class to present to them, and then he gave each of the students that wanted to an opportunity to earn credit for their class by going and working on one of those campaigns. And so I was very active in doing that, both in the primary and both post-primary, and found it very helpful to be able to have them engaged in the process, to knock on doors and go through those real-life experiences. And I think that's how, when they've gone through that experience and they talk to people and understand the concerns that they have and that they want to then be part of the change, it's giving them an opportunity to see that they have a potential to be able to make a difference. We, in my office, we've had a number of interns. One of those interns was a graduate of Middle College High School in the city of San Bernardino. Middle College High School in the city of San Bernardino is one of the top-ranked high schools in the entire state. Middle College High School graduates 100% of their students. About a third of their students come out of there also with an AA degree. They're dual emerged. It's an excellent program in our community. Our school district's doing an excellent job of trying to help them be engaged. And I think that will help to encourage the millennials to, those aren't millennials now, but they'll be whatever they're called in the future.
Okay.
It'll give them that opportunity. And so I've been proactive about trying to work with our students and with our youth. One of the youth that came and worked on an internship, and this was a volunteer internship, came out of Cajon High School and was a student in Princeton, came back to the mayor's office to serve a summer internship in my office. And I think that I've helped to set that stage and to try to be a leader in helping our youth to get involved.
Fred? Millennials.
Well, social media, I think, probably is a big part of that. As the mayor's talking about, you know, it's part of our responsibility to engage with the college districts and the school districts, and to be reaching out and encouraging these people. Of course, I think the school districts have a big responsibility in making politics and government available to them, and teaching them about the process and about democracy and how things go. Life has changed from when I was, when I first, I couldn't wait to register to vote. And when I turned 21, and I've never missed an election since, and that was a long time ago. And I think our society has changed it a little bit, and it's a good question. And how do we get them engaged? I don't know what the exact answer is, but better partnerships maybe between government and the school districts and the college districts to have internships. For a council member, it's a little different because we're part-time. We don't really have an office that we can hire someone or bring them in as an intern and work with them, but we can invite them to work on our campaigns, and we can encourage them. We can go out and meet with school districts and talk to them there. But it's a little different for a part-time council member to be able to engage, as the mayor has done with some of the programs that he's put together, where he's got an office and a little bit more of a budget and whatever, and the ability to reach out and bring people in and provide an internship. And it's a great, I commend him for what he's done and for engaging our community. But it's like so many things, it's partnerships and partnering with, as I say, the school districts, the county school district, the college district, and what have you.
I have a millennial show once a month, and
I probably need to come on it.
they reply when they move from their parents and go find a job, and they can't make it. And I ask them, do you vote? And they say no, because our vote doesn't count.
It's just not true.
and I try to encourage them. And they say they can't make it because they don't make. There's not enough jobs out there. So, what's your guys' opinion on that?
Well, my understanding too, and the mayor probably will have more detailed information on this than I, but my understanding is that there are jobs. Now, I'm not talking, I don't know what kind of jobs you're talking about, a high schooler coming out of high school,
Millennials.
or coming out of college, or just
17
21, 22 years old, 20 years old.
17 to 31.
I don't know what the job availability in that particular group is. But there are jobs available, I'm told, and I'm told by people in the school district, and a good friend of mine, Mike Gallo, that works with school with training and putting people to work.
I know, Mike.
Yeah, I know you do, and he's very engaged with his TET program.
Yeah, I like that school.
Yeah, it's great. It really is, and he's done a fabulous job with it. But he's telling me that our students are that they're not prepared. They're not prepared for some of the jobs that are available to them.
See.
And all I can say to that is, I'm not going to throw the school district under the bus or the colleges under the bus, but it sounds to me like it's an education problem. And I think I've been in college or in high school for a long, long time, and I don't think that they give the same emphasis to government and democracy and history as we were encouraged to learn back in those days when I was in high school. I don't know what the curriculum is nowadays, but I hear different things, and so I'm not going to try to comment on something that I certainly don't have the answers on, but I think we need to be looking at programs in high school and college that encourage and bring back the civics and the history and those kinds of things, and figure out a way to get them engaged. You're talking about coming out and they can't make it. It's because they can't make enough money, and that's another issue. And it's, of course, that's not what we do. We don't. Government should be creating an environment that allows the private sector to create jobs, and that's what I think I see my role as a city leader to do, is to provide a stable situation. They're the ones who are going to hire jobs. Obviously, counties and cities but we don't create jobs. We create an environment that allows the private sector to create jobs.
I might just add a little bit. The Southern California Association of Governments does a report every 2 years. And the report that they produced, the average salary is actually higher than the county average. So the city of San Bernardino actually does have part of the reason for that is that the city has a very large education employment base. About 33% of the jobs, about another 13 or 14% are government-based, and most of those are very good paid jobs. And so you're looking at 47% of the jobs in the city of San Bernardino that do provide a good wage, and a wage that would actually allow a family to be able to survive. That Councilman Shorett alluded to was matching up the skills with the jobs. And so that's one of the things that the school district is, I think, moving towards and doing a pretty good job of identifying those demand sectors and helping to drive some of the curriculum in that vein. One of those is going to have on campus a diesel mechanic program, so that students will come out of that program ready to be able to be certified in diesel mechanic. They already have a program which is connected with Valley College, and there are a number of students that attend that in addition to being students at Pacific High School. And if they complete that, they'll be able to go out and get very good high-paying jobs. One of the other schools, Indian Springs High School, is working on developing a pathway into the medical field. They also have as a pathway into the logistics program. And throughout the school district, Dr. Marsden has got to get pathways in addition to the college pathway. And Valley College also has a number of good trade programs that they have. One of those is the A&P mechanics, where they'll learn to be able to repair jet engines. And so the airport is working and has for some time to try to collaborate with putting that program at the airport. So we are looking at how we can better match up the need with the skill gap, because that's really what you're talking about here.
Yes,
it's not necessarily identified that way. That are available in the United States today. We have the most job openings. I think it's over 6 million job openings, more job openings than we've had in a couple of decades. And so as far as being able to meet that need, that skill needs to be developed to fill those jobs. Engineers are one of the areas where the United States needs to produce more engineers to be able to do the kinds of technical work that is required. Trying to fulfill that need. But as the councilman member made reference to, some of those students are coming not prepared to be able to do college level work. And so that's not really something that the city of San Bernardino is going to be able to change, other than and help them to see what they need to learn in some of those better paid jobs.
Why I was asking that question, because the millennials, to me, is the future, and the future starts now. Basically, if we can get them to vote, there'll be more of us voting, right?
Excellent editorial, Danny. You're spot on.
Next question. Name 10 things we could do to the city, or to help the city, to bring back the all-American city.
10. Usually, those are usually 3 or 4 questions. Not 10. 3 or.
Okay.
Is this
I'll
between us? Between us, we're going to name 10.
5 and 5. How about that?
Of course, safety.
We may name the same 5.
Yeah, we're going to probably name the same 5. Safety, cleanliness, jobs,
Okay.
a